Sawadee Krap, I'm JP Mestanza. Today is Wednesday, April 20th. Welcome to Phuket Extra, brought to you by pbcphukets.com. Local police in Talang are now mulling over whether there will be any legal action taken after a fatal accident in which two men were left dead on Tuesday morning. The crash took place near Wat Pa Khlok, westbound on the main road to the Heroines Monument at about 10 a.m. on Tuesday, shortly after a U-turn. 50-year-old Somchok Chaidam was driving a motorbike with a sidecar, making the U-turn near the temple when a 74-year-old man, Sangtong Karuna, crashed into him at speed with his motorcycle. Somchok died at the scene while the 74-year-old man was taken to Talang Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Police are now using CCTV footage to determine whether any legal action will be pursued. For more, visit thephuket.news.com. Thailand's Department of Disease Control is saying that while about half of the country's population now has immunity against COVID-19, it's still well short of the government's goal of 80%. The DDC's epidemiology director says that they believe that about 50% of the population of Thailand is immunized against COVID-19 by factoring in all the people who have received 2 vaccine doses plus a booster shot, along with what they say is about 10% of the country's 67.5 million people having contracted the virus so far, which would mean they are immunized against the disease. However, he stated that there is concern that last week's Songkran holiday, which saw massive amounts of people travel back home to their provinces, could have been a catalyst for working-age people, many of whom are vaccinated or immunized against COVID-19, to pass it on to vulnerable populations, notably the elderly and those with underlying health conditions, which the DDC says about 55% of those in vulnerable groups have not been inoculated at all. Thailand recorded 128 COVID fatalities over the last 24 hours, and new cases have reached just over 23,300 nationwide. Experts had previously stated that daily caseloads could rise to 50,000 to 100,000 following Songkran, but it's unclear if that's the case because these new daily numbers do not take into account people testing positive via antigen test kits. For more, visit thephuket.news.com. Former Prime Minister Yingluck is back in the news as another warrant for her arrest was issued by the Supreme Court after she failed again to appear in court for a hearing in a corruption case concerning a roadshow project from back in 2013. Yingluck, who is living in exile in Dubai with her brother Thaksin, another former prime minister who is also living in exile, was charged with 5 others with malfeasance and collusion for allegedly wasting a 240 million baht budget on marketing her infrastructure projects back in 2013. Specifically, Yingluck and her co-defendants are alleged to have caused damage of 240 million baht to the country by helping Matichon and Siam Sport win contracts to carry out the project by a special selection method rather than properly calling for bids. The roadshow was launched in 2013 on the instruction of then Prime Minister Yingluck. It included exhibitions, seminars, and other activities to promote the project. In March 2014, the Constitutional Court ruled the roadshow was unconstitutional. Yingluck had her lawyer, Nopadot Lautung, turn up to the court on her behalf, and he denied the charges and sought a later deadline for testimonies, which was granted for September 12th. Yingluck fled Thailand in August 2017 to escape punishment over her administration's failed rice pledging scheme just before the Supreme Court sentenced her to 5 years in prison. For more, visit thephuket.news.com. The government has been planning to declare COVID-19 an endemic disease by July, but tourism operators, including hoteliers, want the subsidies that allow domestic tourists to travel to continue. The Association of Domestic Travel, the ADT, a collection of tourism operators from around the country, are lobbying the central government in Bangkok to extend the Tour Deo Thai tourism package subsidy scheme to continue through to October, and even said that there should be a new initiative to boost travel to secondary destinations nationwide. Tour Tiao Thai is a co-payment campaign that allowed domestic tourists to pick from one of several tour packages to travel around the country. The government would cover up to 40% of tour costs for no more than 200,000 people, capped at 5,000 baht per trip. Registration for the scheme began last year. As of Tuesday, just over 67,000 out of the 200,000 tour packages have been sold, and the scheme is scheduled to end this month. The head of the ADT stated that the government should also increase the quota from 1 package per tourist to 2 to 3 packages each to let operators maintain competitive prices and improve demand. At the same time, the Thai Hotels Association, the THA, are calling for an expansion of another subsidy campaign, the We Travel Together scheme, which is a hotel subsidy campaign that saw the government provide copay of 40% of room rates. As of April 17, some 2.69 million baht has been used for the subsidy in this 4th phase of the scheme. The head of the THA, Marissa Sukosonung Bakdi, says they're lobbying the government for an additional 2 million room nights under the campaign, but added that the government can lower the subsidy to 20 to 30% in order to launch other travel incentives. They're calling for the campaign to continue into May to spur more new bookings during next month's long holidays, since the quota for this latest phase in the scheme was used up during the Songkran holiday. For more, visit thephuket.news.com. 2 rescue foundations that provide emergency medical services were acting like gangs on Sunday as a fight between them in Bangkok left 1 man dead and 3 others injured. In Thailand, rescue foundations are given money from hospitals to deliver patients to them, and they provide emergency medical services to people who need them in their jurisdiction. In this case, the brawl took place between workers from the Sayam Ruam Jai Foundation, the SRJ, and the Pol Tek Tung Foundation, the PTT. The SRJ was set up by workers who were kicked out of the PTT, and recently, the SRJ set up a referral unit in an area under supervision by the PTT. Recently, the SRJ set up a referral unit in an area under the supervision by the PTT at a retail store in Bangkok's Klong Toi district on Kasimrat Road. Now, this brawl took place at about 1:20 in the morning on Sunday in Bangkok's Klong Toi district, which is where the retail store was located. Workers from the PTT entered the retail store to look for rival workers, and gunshots were heard and fighting spilled out into the streets. Police were initially unable to enter the area immediately by the retail store where the gunshots were heard because it was blocked by some 20 rescue vehicles with about 80 rescue workers reportedly scattered around the area. In the end, 1 man from the PTT, a 25-year-old ambulance worker, was shot in the chest and later pronounced dead at a local hospital, while 3 others were injured. For more, visit the link in the description. Thanks for joining us here on this Wednesday edition of Phuket Extra, brought to you by pvcphukets.com. Join us again on Thursday. Until then, stay classy, Phuket.
Phuket's rapid modernization has made it one of the world's premier holiday destinations. Investors can still buy quality condominiums for as low as $75,000 and luxury properties can go all the way up to 20 million. Condominiums in Phuket are a safe, secure bricks-and-mortar investment offering foreigners freehold ownership. Call or email Thai Residential, Phuket's #1 trusted real estate advisor, to find your perfect Phuket property.